We are ready to talk about directions for review and preview 4.1.3 part 1. For question 34, they start you off with a table. And part A asks you to copy the table and then complete the table. There should be two values that are missing for the number of toothpicks. So in order to figure out those two missing numbers, you've got to decide what is the pattern that you see happening from one figure to the next. How is the number of toothpicks changing from one figure to the next? How will that pattern continue? So for part A, copy and complete the table. And we have to use that table to do part B. Part B says to draw axes and plot Julian's points. For what we have to do here on part B, you need a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. Across the bottom, I'm going to put the figure number, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure you leave yourself room to label all 5 of those figure numbers. Then on the vertical axis, this is going to represent the number of toothpicks. And starting down here at 0, you can increase by whatever amount that you think is reasonable. You just have to increase by those amounts consistently. One option, I'm not saying this is what you have to do, but one option that would be reasonable would be to count by 5s and label consistently. Again, just one option that's reasonable. I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but you can see that from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, all my numbers are going up consistently. Once you have your axes set up and labeled, then it's going to ask you to put the points on there from the chart. The first one we know, which is 1, 7. So for figure 1, it has 7 toothpicks. I would put figure 1, 7 toothpicks somewhere in that area. Figure 2 has 10 toothpicks. And then I would have to continue for figures 3, 4, and 5. Once you have all 5 points on the graph here that you've made, part C asks you to kind of look at where they are in relation to each other and describe what they have in common. If you have the correct values and you have your points in the right spot, there should be something very obvious that you will notice about how they are arranged in relation to each other. For question 35, it asks you to do two things. We've got some mixed numbers, we've got some decimals, and we've got a couple with subtraction and a couple with addition, so watch out for that there to start with. They're asking you to come up with an estimate for an answer and then go back and find the exact answer. So on your answer sheet for this, you'll see there's a spot here to say here's my estimate for part A, here's my exact answer for part A. If you need some room for work, the back side is where I will look to see it. So again, what's my estimate, what's my exact answer, and my work can go on the back. For question 36, it says find the prime factorization for each number below. A while back, we talked about remembering that when I'm asked for the prime factorization, I need to think of making factor trees. So again, factor trees, if you need room for those, the back side is a great place to put those, and I can look to see them there. So prime factorizations for part A and part B. Then there's a way we can use those prime factorizations to come up with answers for part C and part D. Part C asks you to find the greatest common factor for 36 and 45. Keep in mind that if it's a factor, it's a number that goes into both 36 and 45. We want to know the biggest number they can both be divided evenly by. Then for part D, what's the least common multiple for 36 and 45? And so we're trying to think of what's the first number that they will both go into. So it's got to be something bigger than 36 and bigger than 45. For question 37, we have some absolute value expressions, and again, we see it's asking us to simplify. So really that just means my job is to work through the steps that I see properly and come up with an answer. Keep in mind that absolute value symbols work similar to parentheses. So I'm going to have to find absolute values before I do any adding or find the opposite of anything. So keep that in mind for 37. On question 38, it says to copy the following problems onto your paper, then use the number line to help you fill in with less than or greater than on the blank. My guess would be that at least for 2 of these, you should probably easily be able to do without thinking of that number line. It's possible that for a couple of them, you may have to look a little bit closer. So keep in mind, look carefully to decide where would 6.5 be? Or sorry, where would negative 6.5 be? Where would negative 5.5 be? Look carefully at where they go, because the one that's farther to the right is the one that's going to be bigger. The one that's farther to the left is the one that will be smaller.